Hey everyone, welcome to the AI Amigo show. My name is James Garza. I'm here with my good friend Jin Chow and my other good friend Bryan Clancy. Welcome, Bryan.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Jin Chao, for having me. That's
No
fantastic to be
problem.
here.
No problem. I
Well,
think
before we
this.
get started here, we just want to point out that we are sponsored by Tequila AI. It takes a while to get used to, Bryan. Like point to Tequila AI, Bryan. What side of your shoulder is it on? Let's see if you get it on the first go.
You can't ask a guest to do that. That's
I just did.
advertisement.
I just did, but did you notice he's not pointing? He's thinking about it for a second. Because remember, I was telling you about the mirror effect, Bryan. There you go. He's got it. He got it. So we are sponsored by Tequila AI. So anyway, we have a lot of stuff for today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. So really, some interesting stuff. Maybe Bryan, you want to? Would I introduce you, Bryan, or do you want to introduce yourself? Like you see, I know that you're working on your PhD and you work with cultural anthropology, Queen's University in Belfast, and you got MA in Equality Studies from UCD. I'm reading that there, yes, and a BA in Cultural Anthropology. I was talking to Jin Chow, and it's like anthropology. I'm thinking about like when I hear that word, I think about like people who are digging, for like, but that's not an anthropologist. Are you like Indiana Jones? Is that what you do, Bryan? I mean, you know, more or less.
I
Maybe.
mean, I wish I was Indiana Jones. I mean, first of all, I'd love to look like Harrison Ford. That would be a great goal to achieve. But yeah, I mean, the people who dig in the ground are archaeologists, and that is a branch of anthropology for sure. So I had to do all of that training when I became an anthropologist. You got to kind of learn how to graph out the ground and dig up bones, and you got to do all that stuff. So we used to
Yeah.
actually, this is kind of gross and funny. We used to have to rehydrate and rehydrate samples of human feces to find hydrated samples. So it was part and parcel of what you train for as an anthropologist. I've done all that.
Okay, that sounds. I mean, I know like they found the bog man. What did they rehydrate him? You know,
No, no, he's completely petrified, kind of like some people are when they come on AI Amigos.
they
Yeah.
are definitely petrified,
You're
stupefied, petrified, and
you're
qualified.
learning there as kind of like how you take them out as kind of a start of a movie. Basically, an Indiana Jones movie. That's where it started, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly,
but you're
exactly.
dealing with live people, right, Bryan? You're not dealing with dead people in your cultural anthropology. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean my field, like just to be specific about it, like I study non-exotic tribes. So cultural anthropologists study the behaviors of people in groups. And so non-exotic tribes are, you don't have to go far afield, to all the way to Beijing or to, Mexico City. You can study tribes all around you. So I belong to the Irish tribe. It's a very unique and strange group of people. And so what are the behaviors of non-exotic tribes? And currently, I've been studying software as salespeople for the last 8 years. So it's an incredible journey into this non-exotic tribe.
well, that's definitely a very unusual tribe, to say the least. Bryan. But today our topic of AI Amigo show, we're going to talk about AI, and I know when we talk about the culture of AI, what does the culture of AI actually mean? What do you think, Bryan?
So culture breaks down in a very simple way to three things. It's what you say, it's what you do, and it's what you believe. So right now we're in this period of AI culture where we're all talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's saying everything, and a smaller population of people are using AI. So that's what they do. They're turning sort of behaviors that they say into habits. So you're getting into habitual behavior about what AI is doing. And eventually we'll form, after we kind of have habits formed about, hey, we talk about AI, we use AI, and now what do we believe AI is capable of? And that's the tipping point for a cultural shift that we're talking about today. With a billion users, And what people are talking about has now become more like actions. We're starting to optimize work streams and think about how we're using it in our daily lives. But now the question is, will it take hold in belief? Do people fundamentally believe things about AI? And you can compare that to human culture, where fundamentally there are cultural taboos like cannibalism, right? So will it move into a stage where people have a taboo against AI and feel like, I don't want to touch it, I don't want anything to do with that? Or what kind of adoption will it look like when it becomes a belief that AI is here for the good? And we're starting to see that cultural transformation take shape in different ways in what people believe about AI.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Brian. You says right now it does feel like there's everyone is touching different aspect of AI, kind of like the chaos before the sunlight kind of way, because there's so many different way.
Yeah.
People says, oh, it doesn't help me, I don't like AI, and some people says, oh yeah, it helped me tremendously. Some people worry about jobs, some people like embrace them, company embrace them. So yeah, it's quite interesting time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's
Yeah,
definitely
I
some
agree.
fear. I mean, psychology. If you think about it, like we're adverse to change, even if change for good. And AI does mean change, and it means change maybe in a big way. But I mean, I think a lot of concerns, if you think about it as well, is that people are saying, well, if I use AI, am I then using AI to work myself out of a job? And I think that's a big fear.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you nailed it in terms of where certain things are with fear, right? I mean, if we're talking about cultural shifts, Luddites, for example, hated technology, and that had everything to do with sort of the industrialization and where people changed, right? But constantly, cultural shifts are based on fear initially. Nobody just says, "Oh, I can't wait for this cultural shift to happen," right?
Mhm.
It's very much putting people in an uncomfortable place. And I think what's really interesting is, for the first time, and this is my opinion from technology, is you have a lot more participation in this cultural transformation than you think, right? And you can associate that with, like, what Amazon did, to sort of what it was originally books, and then it started sending you packages, and now it's sending you things within the hour or within the day, right? Well, we know what happens in China, and the sort of different apps that do similar things, and the expectation is the transformation is instantaneous, right?
Mhm.
So now we're in a culture where AI should be transforming instantaneously. It should be doing something right away. And so that fear of what could change, and the idea that we're all going to be left behind. I mean, Netflix
Yeah.
has changed the way we watch, television. YouTube has changed the way we consume content, but none of that stuff is instantaneous, right? YouTube's been around for
Yeah,
20
yeah,
years, so has Netflix. So we're at the cusp of the participation of this transformation that's far more collective. It's a global transformation that AI is happening. But the idea that it's going to be accelerated somehow, and we're going to somehow just all be left behind and have no jobs and no work, is a little bit
yeah,
exaggerated, because these transformations take a lot of time.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, the AI transformation has been very quick. Would you not agree? I mean, in regards to, like, if you look at the Industrial Revolution or any other times in human change where things have changed, where AI, I mean, we talk about like Moore's law, right? Like every 2 years things double, particularly in hardware. Where
Mhm.
now it's like that's out the window. Things are moving very, very quickly. I mean, you look at AI models that have been released in 2026 alone. Like, it's a staggering rate.
Well, to
Yeah,
challenge your Moore's law idea, Jing Chao, sorry to cut you off, but to challenge that idea, I think it's more like Murphy's law. Like, what can go wrong will go wrong, right? Because
And it does go
they're just
wrong.
it's producing a lot of garbage at the moment. I don't see it innovating in the way that, maybe Dennis Hasselman at Deep Minds is sort of thinking, the way they're folding strands of cells, and things like that. That's super fascinating stuff. But I think at the moment, the saturation of AI means that it's going to be a lot more slop before we get to what the transformation will really look like.
yeah.
Well, I knew there would be a bit of Irish tribe coming out of you there, Brian, with Murphy's Law. But what do you think gets missed when organizations lead with technology? I mean, that's I think there's a lot of concerns, particularly around executives and the board table, that they're going to be left behind, and either they're going to be made obsolete, or their competitors going to outperform them, or get some competitive advantage over them. What do you think gets missed in all of this, Bryan, from your cultural
I mean, I
anthropology
think
view?
boardroom transformation is definitely an oxymoron, right? There's not much transformation that happens in the boardroom because they are adhered to stakeholders, they're adhered to stock prices. They have to their transformation has to be very slow, because massive transformation, even in organizations like Microsoft or other, big corporations, board transformation doesn't happen quickly. A lot of decisions have to be made when you're, employing 100,000 people. So that oxymoron of transformation is not really true, because I don't think it happens that quickly. Now, where you're seeing transformation in areas of technology is that what's the adaptation that employees have to make within corporate environments that will alleviate some workflows, automation of things, moving from Excel to, sort of automation, or moving from searching through, massive content libraries and then trying to distill down what you're looking for or what those outputs are, right? And Amazon did this pretty successfully by banning PowerPoints, and then you'd have to come to a meeting with a brief, or engineering team shouldn't be bigger than 2 large pizzas, and if you can't fit 12 people around the table with 2 large pizzas, then there's too many people involved in those decision makes. I think that transformation is happening because people are seeing the reality of what you can create in a very short period of time. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have a rush of brand new products that are going to be fascinating and useful. I like watching those things on LinkedIn where, it's like old school hacks, these life hacks. I saw one today that was fascinating, right? Mechanics, when they put tools in the engine and they like drop a tool and the tool rolls off and they have to go and catch it under the car. So it was a magnetic sheet that you put on the hood of the car, and the tool stuck to the hood of the car while you're working on the engine, right? And I thought, wow, that's a really useful tool, right? So I think we're going to get some really interesting innovations that will be like, whoa, that's a really useful tool. And you'll see the adoption of a lot more things in my world in software. You're seeing the consolidation of companies like Seismic and HighSpot coming together. Consensus just bought Salio today. So optimization will be acquisition first. They'll merge technology and then re-emerge with some innovation that will provide an automation structure that will really optimize what people are doing. And that word is dangerous. I think what's really important for like cultural anthropologists like myself, what's the language being used around AI and what does that mean? One of the things I love the most about what my kids are young and preteens, and they're talking about the lore, right? There's the lore behind Roblox or the lore behind this movie. They're talking about folklore, right? And that folklore is the entire foundation for human transformation, which is the oral tradition of storytelling, right? Yeah. So the more lore there is around AI, what it can do, the lore of this, the lore of that, the more embedded it's going to become into the stories that we tell. And I think that's when transformation is really going to have an impact, that we're going to see, wow, AI transformed healthcare. Who wouldn't love that to happen, right? And we'd love to see the optimization of patient records and how we're treated and how medicine is proactive, not reactive. That would be amazing for everybody. And that would improve quality of life beyond any use of Excel or spreadsheets that we need to optimize those kind of things. So my hope is that, but my hope is that it transforms a lot more than just simple Excel, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference about AI, like just call some of the points you're saying early on, that is like a second like the revolution is about like a steam machines and all that, but people are knowing it's just one specific area more or less, but like AI is giving you a possibility of all the areas. It's not clear, kind of like, oh, I know this can work, like, before it's like we're using machine can make the production speed lower the price. But now it's like you can use AI in a lot of things, just how you apply to it. I think that's the totally different shift, and in this AI race, or yeah.
Well, I mean, like
Well,
those standards. Go ahead, Brian.
it's interesting you said race, right? So again, what I focus on as a cultural anthropologist is like the language, not from a linguistics point of view, but like what are we using the words that encompass what's happening? So, optimization, transformation, the race for AI, race to what? What are we running towards, right? And I think that's really cool to think about. Like, okay, we've got these incredible language learning models. They're doing this cool stuff. To your point, prices are going to plummet on some things, but then other things like energy, which it's consuming a lot of, I mean, in Ireland, specifically, we have a huge problem with these data centers who on track to consume the entire power grid. Like what could we be thinking about that, right? And so I think people don't recognize how much computational power and energy goes into these models. At the moment, we're just sort of scratching the surface like we would a Google search. But really, the complex problems and the consumption of tokens and what that will mean for energy is really interesting. So I don't know if we're running towards something, but we're certainly getting a little bit of fatigued at how much you have to understand at what the models are doing and what that impact will be, in the near future.
Well, there's definitely AI fatigue in regards to so many things coming out, and you're learning things, and it's just trying to keep up with all of that. But one of the things like Jinsha was saying there, what I thought was really would be good, like in particular areas, like when you look at the supply chain, if you look at when from farm to table, how much food is wasted simply because of logistics, and they can't get it right. And I think that's where AI could have a huge impact. And and I think it's something like 80% of the food that's produced is thrown away. So speaking of AI there, and from a anthropologist, what could AI be, Brian? This was to say, what is the anthropologist's vision of what AI could be? What do you think? Thinking of like bias, displacement, loss of trust. Did we lose you, Brian? Are you still there? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like to your point, like the exciting thing is that what is it going to change? Ultimately, it's going to change everything, right? I mean, as you said, farm to table or the way we do things. I think we can't comprehend, what the impact is going to be in such a short period of time. I think the impact in application of things that we're seeing is incredible, but where I think we're probably not optimizing the use of AI and things like that is exactly to your point, the supply chain. We know how fragile supply chains are. We know how fragile, one strait, off the coast of Iran goes shut, and all of a sudden, the world is thinking we might not be flying this summer. So those kind of things where we're going to see, air traffic controllers. I mean, when are we going to hand the reins over to a supercomputer that can do that? Because that's one of the most stressful jobs in the world, right? The way that they manage traffic, and they're more stressed out than dentists, which is also a stressful environment. So when is dentists going to be replaced with AI, or lawyers? That classic joke of what do you call 100 lawyers at the bottom of the sea? A good start. Right. So, I mean, when we think about how we're going to optimize,
hopefully there's no lawyers listening right now,
Brian. So I think we think about how we're going to optimize a lot of these industries. It's going to change a lot. It's going to change so much in all these areas that we can't even fathom. Supply chain, food, seed to sip, and all kinds of different things that we can't even imagine how fast that optimization will happen when you can identify how fast these models can learn.
I think it is interesting now, just for the last, I don't know, since the GPT come out, last probably 3 or 4 years now, we do see different company now is not competing about like all larger parameters, larger context window. They turn it into more kind of applying to a specific area and make the not just a model anymore. It's like a kind of system, right? You can see all the new model come out, all agentic function inside, better reasoning, all that. We do see that very soon probably apply into our life. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because I mean, like, you know, like we're talking about all these things of the human culture, of things that are changing, and one of the things is, like, even this week, Anthropic said, we need to put a pause on AI because it's moving, or, you know, they're not sure a culture can handle what's coming, and that's a really. Now, I don't know if that's a point of view of, you know, I don't know where that's coming from, to be honest with you. Like, you know, because you, from the cynical side, you can go, well, maybe they're trying to do that because other models are developing much faster. Like, I mean, Jin Chao showed us this week some Minimax stuff, and it's like incredible, right? And you're going like, so maybe they're saying, hold on, guys, we need to pause for a second, because is it a competitive issue or is it really a cultural issue? You know, that's what's interesting for me. I mean, did you hear about that announcement, Brian? What do you think?
I mean, you know, for major corporations like that to say, hey, we need to slow down or pump the brakes on innovation, that to me is a massive alarm bell. Because what it would take for a marketing team, a strategy team, you know, a sales team to come out and say, actually, this is going too fast, or actually, we need to think about where this is headed. On the back end of that decision, there are so many strategic meetings, there's boardrooms that have discussed this, and they're saying, do we or do we not go live with this information? A great counterexample is that with Facebook or Meta, what they released in, you know, the Ray-Bans and what they sort of are doing with facial recognition technology, and then, oops, let's pause that technology and sort of, you know, reshift. So you have two great examples of parallel decisions that would have happened in boardrooms and a lot of strategic conversations. One is, hey, just press go and let's let this software fly. And if there's pushback, we'll roll it back. That sounds to be the Meta way. Or
I think we've right.
Hey, actually, this is going too fast. We need to announce to the public.
I was saying, I think maybe Brian's internet's not too fast. So I think maybe Brian, you've lost you there, brother.
Yeah, you're not moving. I've been staring at you for 5 seconds now.
Well, I guess we give him a second for maybe his internet will catch up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very interesting conversation there, Jin Chao. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's Facebook is quite interesting. He mentioned, I mean, Facebook just start charging people now if you don't want ads or something, right?
Yeah.
And then something, excuse me, something you mentioned early on about Moore's law, about innovation on AI chips and stuff. About two or 3 weeks ago, Huawei just released they call TOS scaling law. So what happened? What does that mean? Is Moore's law is basically talking about hardware. We're making the chip smaller, more capable. But to a level now, to every little step forward, it's enormous amount of stuff we needed to do. Hi, Brian. I'm just talking about the tall scaling law for Huawei, and they were released 2 or 3 weeks ago. So what Huawei does is basically says, ultimately, like a car example, right? Ultimately, you want a car to drive faster instead of getting a bigger like engine. Tall scaling law is basically, what about other components? How can we connect them better? How can we make them faster instead of making the chip smaller all the time? So for the car kind of analogy is basically, can we get better tires? Can we get more aerodynamic? So there's still a big race. Everyone just trying different way to get to a better technology at the moment to produce AI.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's even like with the like the M3 chips, and now they're coming out where they're connected to the CPU with a GPU, and that memory is all built in together, you know, which is it's making things much faster from a compute cycle. But sorry, Brian, you were talking about Meta, and then Meta. I think they threw you off our show.
and then Zuckerberg killed my feed, right? So I think that's what happened, right?
Yeah, and they let you
I
back in.
started speaking negatively about Meta immediately, right? There was something that flew through my window and hit me in the neck, right?
Yeah, the AI just like delete.
Oh goodness! I might try and join on my phone because I don't know what's going on with my internet. I think Mark is definitely hacking me, so I'll be right back. Just you guys keep the conversation going.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll switch to the news. We've got some news that's coming out, and we were just talking about this before the show. Really big news that happened yesterday, which was, Claude's Mythos. They've come out with Fable 5.
Mm-hmm.
So from now, if you subscribe to Claude, from now to the 22nd of June, you'll be able to use Fable 5. It burns through your usage like crazy.
Yeah. And then I think just the context of this, that's the one we talk about. That's the model we talked about 2-3 weeks ago. All the big companies signed up to the Glasswing project. They got this kind of model. And if you try this model, they were saying there's some guardrails inside you can't use for security or something like that. It would defer you to the other Claude model. So yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the things is like, within the, as using neural networks inside the LLMs, and there's a layer inside there. I was reading about this, so you know how they have different layers, but there's a layer that goes through, and apparently if you remove that layer, which is like the safeguards, you can actually, so when you use AI, I mean, it was one you were telling me today, Jin Chao. Well, I mean, there's certain ones that you could ask the AI, like, how do I do this or how do I do that? And it won't let you do it because of the safeguards that are there, because they're meant. But if you take the layer out, you can then now do all the things you're not supposed to do. Like, how can I, make fake credit card numbers, or how can I do whatever, some nefarious things, bad actor stuff that you can do.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned burn a token quickly. I assume this model is, to a point, it's not just a model anymore. It's more complex system of a model, because if you ever really used a kind of agentic system, you spread out 6 or 7 agents to do the work, right? One day I burned 228 million tokens. That's what happened. Because those are
Brian's face.
Those are really fast, because there's a consensus to be made when you orchestration those agents, and those are tokens as well. So you're literally using your token 6 times in one go, plus the communication between them as well. So it's
just
really
burning. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, I know that there is it the Opus, or which is the latest model that they have. It's the Opus, yeah. So Opus. So basically, we already know Opus uses lots and lots of tokens or usage, but apparently this is going to use twice as much as Opus. Okay. So let's see here. Look at here. This is my friend Michael Gabriel. He said, other AI news, the use is actually shifting towards formalizing AI regulation through a combination of executive actions and legislative proposals. They've been talking about that for a while, haven't they? We talked about that in another show some time back, because I know that we have the EU AI Act, but there was some stuff coming from the White House, particularly in regards to concerns about releasing models before everyone's ready for it. And I think Mark Zuckerberg and talking to Mark Zuckerberg, Brian. I don't want you to get, I hope I don't get cut off now. And Elon Musk, apparently they called to the White House and spoke to the president, and then that got removed. So it'll be interesting how that all works out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you're sponsored by, you still got kicked off by those big guys.
So Brian, anything to add there? You are muted, by the way, so just...
I mean, I think that, Jin Chao's use of tokens is absolutely disgusting, right? So, I think I have a friend who he has a shower with 5 shower heads, And
Yeah.
he says every time he takes a shower, he feels like he's draining the Pacific Ocean. And I feel like that comment is now replaced by Jin Chao's token usage. So,
You have to. The message I'm going for is basically you have to make the mistake and learn from it, because those are the things I'm afraid later on. That's what I talked to James as well. Like later on, it's going to be a rich people's game, and they are the people who be able to burn that amount of tokens to figure out the issues. Luckily, I was in a token package, so it wasn't just purely pay as you go. Otherwise, I won't be here. I'd be on the street, holding a bow, ask for changes.
And equally, AI token usage, or like if you look at like other models that use a lot less tokens, or they're finding better ways to do this. So that number sounds like a lot, but when you actually look at it, and I'm not saying that it's not a lot, but it's not as bad as it was, let's say, 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
It reminds me a lot of when Roblox came out and they started sort of initiating this kind of Roblox, or what is it, Robux, right? So you could spend real money within the Roblox environment. And there was a couple of celebrities who were telling funny stories of, Jack Black was one of them, that he linked his Apple account to his Roblox account, and then gave his son the phone, and then his son had spent like $3,000 on Roblox in like an hour or something like that. So he was on a talk. What?
But it was for his son. He didn't know what that is. It's just fake money, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just like, oh yeah, I want this gym. And I have another friend who has, unlimited access to certain games, currency within the games, and gives a certain amount of currency to, one of his family members, and they burn through it. Like, they want this upgrade, that upgrade. They buy these gems, they buy this, sword. And so I think we're at that stage with tokens. It's like people don't fully understand what you could burn through, and they don't get the concept that it's connected to something like, an enterprise spend or something like that. So there's a lot of, wiggle room culturally to think about what our knowledge is of what we're consuming, and who is this costing money to? Because if you work in a large corporation, even bigger than the ones that I've worked in, your concept of burning through tokens is kind of like, well, I'm doing some great research, and then, this is like R&D, right? So how much do we spend on research and development? Well, a lot. But if it's an individual kind of, making a cat dance and putting his family's faces on the 6 cats, well, that's not really good use of company tokens, right?
No.
Yeah, or stalking a loop. Most likely is stalking some problem it couldn't figure out. But you give him a goal, you have to finish this. It's just constantly in there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is when you look at, we've already seen 2 major companies, Uber and Microsoft, that basically ate through their entire AI budget in the first 4 to 6 months of the year. Their annual budget gone, so they had to remove Claude, because it was actually Claude. Anthropic was the one. So we were talking about that in another show. But someone's asking, we've got a couple of questions here from the audience. Question here from Ive. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but opinion on the danger of AI spoken before by the godfather of AI, Mr. Jeffrey Hinton. I know he's given out some warnings and things like that. What do you think about the danger? I mean, we're talking about AI, but we've not really talked about dangers. I mean, I guess. I mean, we are in regards to like bad actors, or some nefarious use of it. I mean, I know that already, at least here in Ireland. I don't know about the rest of the world, but for example, someone was arrested for child pornography that was created by AI. And that's a real concern, right? So, I mean, what do you think is going to be happening with the use of AI in a bad way, I guess? What do you think, or what Mr. Jeffrey Hinton said?
I mean, I think what Jeffrey Hinton is talking about is absolutely accurate. Like, we need to think about what does the sort of guardrails that we're putting in place, like, and exactly, if you apply what we're thinking on a cultural level to the use of tokens. So if there's no understanding of how we're burning through tokens, okay, well, let's apply that to the same dangers of, traffic on the World Wide Web, right? So if you think about how much traffic goes into pornography and how much is consumed on, illicit sites or the dark web, of course there's dangers, right? Of course there's dangers. And, we're living in an age where there's more human trafficking than there was at the height of, the slave trade. So
Yeah.
where you think about the dangers of AI, I mean, it's absolutely exponentially uncapped, right? Because if you think about how you can use these things nefariously, and pornography is an easy target, I think his comments were more targeted to the people that are running these large corporations, right? So people without senior advisors, and not to be beating on Zuckerberg or Sam Altman for OpenAI, but I think that these are people who live in an age where innovation is the only fuel. And so if you're not innovating, you're going to die, which is absolutely not true. We need oxygen to live, not innovation. And so breathing oxygen is far more important than innovating in a dangerous space. So I think what he was trying to say is pour a little water on the fire of the desperation to innovate at the cost of anything. And that is dangerous when you think that you need to create an iteration of something that's already getting better, but probably not the best. And, since I'm taking shots at large corporations, I mean, do we really need an iPhone 17? Do we need an iPhone 20? I mean, how many iterations of this incredible machine do you need? And if that was put under the pretenses of the dangers of AI or the abuse or exploitation of workers and, in China making them, well, no, I don't want, this apparatus to exploit people and contribute to, child labor. So I think those comments are accurate. I think that we definitely need to sort of follow up on what AI is accelerating and what AI is exploiting. And there is no doubt that it is going to exploit the power grid of many countries in the future at dangerous levels, and I've mentioned Ireland already in the consumption of the full power grid, but I think we can't comprehend at what way we'll be using it if we, for example, to go back to the examples we talked about, if we automate all air traffic control and then that system is hacked and planes fall out of the sky, like we were told many years ago for people in the audience that are old enough to remember Y2K, that's dangerous. And that's the dangers I think he's referring to.
Well, equally, I mean, I think I like thinking of your idea there, Brian, and just expanding on that, on the air traffic controllers. Like if, let's say it's not a human hack, let's say, for example, and there's an airplane crash, who's responsible then?
Exactly right.
And then your AI will tell you, oops.
Yeah,
that's
it. Yeah.
That's it, basically.
So here's the next question there, and from my friend Gabriel. AI question, don't hear enough people asking if AI ultimately displaces millions of workers globally, who places the economic activity those workers generate? So we've talked about this before, Jinchao, in regards to like, so yeah, if you displace people without work, who's going to buy AI? We still have, our economy is based on consumerism, right? We have to buy things. And so in order to buy things, we have to work. I think this whole displacement thing, I think going back to, the fears of Mr. Hinton and concerns. I mean, if you hit, I know if you hit a certain level of unemployment, there is some really major concerns from like the populist revolution. I mean, this has been studied many times. This is not James Garza's opinion. This is,
I think I seen some like a podcast on YouTube before was talking about the number. It's like if US hit 15% unemployment rate, the whole thing would just go shaban. And it's just because the people, when you have people pay taxes, and those machines AI, you don't pay taxes. You probably still write off some cost of that for your taxes. So
and a lot of people in the U.S. live from paycheck to paycheck. So, they lose their job and they start losing houses and start losing all kinds of stuff. And then, so that's a problem as well.
Or if we catastrophically leverage the power grid and then the power goes out, not much need for AI if there's no power, So I think that it's really important to think about, sure, it'll replace a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of conversation about that already, but if we crash the grid and and bankrupt the system in terms of the way power works, it's going to be a whole different conversation about what AI will be used to generate.
Well, right. I mean, there's a lot there. I think maybe we should end on a positive note because it's not all doom and gloom. But yes, there's definitely two sides to the same coin, right? I mean, and this is these are things that need to be discussed. They're things that need to be worked out, definitely. But we're seeing uplifts of AI. I mean, I think in Claude they were saying that they were looking at their engineers and they're doing 8 times more than they were 2 years ago.
I mean, that's exactly it. I think that people, to the point that I made before, we're talking about AI, so that's the cultural shift of what we say. We're using it at the surface level, that's the actions that we're taking. It's becoming a habitual behavior. But what do we really believe? And I think that's the opportunity for the cultural transformation that we've been talking about. And I'm hopeful that those things will lead to cultural transformation. I mean, that we will really see the cures to different diseases. We will really see the solutions that healthcare has never been able to provide. We will see the optimizations of things that are, broken. And so that kind of thing, fobbing in and out or scanning in and out and, optimizing the way we use technology is going to be extremely beneficial for the time suck, that people have experienced for many, many years. And so I think those kind of things, I always remember that, in a university when you used to type in the ISBN number and your, librarian would have to go get your book. The optimization of those kind of things is phenomenal. You can order a book and the thing can be outside your house in an hour. So I think the transformation is in belief, what we believe AI is capable of. And I think the fear mongering that happens, I have to believe that AI is capable of good. And I don't mean that as an agentic sort of AI, sentient thing. I think that we have to start leveraging AI for the benefit of all humanity because it's humans who created it. And therefore, we should really create the benefits that was designed, or at least at the initiation of that idea, in saving time and stopping injuries and accidents all over the world. So I wouldn't be fearful. I think I'm hopeful of this transformation. It's just, what do we really believe we can do in such a short period of time? I think it's limitless, but we just need to lean in away from the fear and into the hope that this could transform human society for the best.
Well, I think one other part of it, as you're talking there, Bryan, is just thinking of the other side of that conversation is like, okay, so if you, as your work, to produce even twice as much work in the same time, how do we, so this is the tendency, right? So rather than say, okay, I want some time back, so I want some less time to work because I can complete my work in the time. And then now what's happening is like employers saying, okay, well, this is what you produced on a weekly basis 2 years ago. Now you can do this with AI. So we want you to go up to here and going, well, so it's making us more, do more and work harder and, not allowing us. I think at the end of the day, we should be able to reclaim some of that time back in some way. This discussion needs to be discussed, not by us, always people higher than us, maybe the Zuckerbergs and the Sam Altmans. But what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Because I remember when the internet and all of that stuff, and they were saying that all this stuff was going to make our life simpler and easier. And is our life simpler? Is our life easier? And this is what AI is supposed to do. Is it going to be simpler? Is it going to be easier? Or is it just another gimmick, or gimmick in regards to take our time?
It is simpler, but it's exhausting, to be honest. Yeah. And just to extend on that is you're constantly teaching the AI, basically teaching it what you want it to do. And the language itself is probably the least efficient way to communicate. It had misunderstanding, all that. So you're really just teaching a 5 or 6-year-old 8 hours a day what to do. So it is exhausting. Other than you do it yourself, it takes longer, yes, but you don't have that level of thinking or correction in there. So
the cognitive, I wouldn't say not load, but I guess it would be a cognitive load on a daily basis that just exhausts you. Yeah. So that was a very happy note to end on.
Well, you can end on my token usage. That's, I think,
which is absolutely out of control, and I think you should be reeled in. Yeah. So we'll talk to the sponsor, which is Tequila AI, and say, don't let Jin Chao loose on any of the token systems, please.
Well, I mean, you talked about Apple earlier, but the WWDC, which is Apple, is running there this week. So they're trying to talk about how they're bringing out stuff, because a lot of people say, is Apple even in the conversation when it comes to AI? Now, I will say that they are in the conversation with their hardware. Their hardware is, we've talked about Mac Minis, and they're coming up to the M5 chips. All of that is impressive, right? But ChatGPT hit 1 billion users, monthly users.
Incredible. Yeah.
And they did that.
I mean, funny enough, that would make Zuckerberg cry, right? I mean, how long did Facebook or the Facebook take to get to a certain tipping point? I mean, I think it's incredible. I think that collective, what we used to call critical mass, that if you have enough people doing something, it's going to change. And I do think that this usage of AI is definitely a critical mass. What this tipping point is a foundational switch in the way that it's here to stay. This isn't disappearing.
Yeah. I think people should careful with using OpenAI just for the private stuff and data, and right from the court cases, and we see it's a very business OpenAI side, so they could use that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, as far as when they just gone and how they grew, and you think about how long it took, like you said, Facebook to get that many users, and as well, because they're growing and they were the first ones out. If you think about 4 years ago, you would have, who's ChatGPT? What's that? You would have
never heard of it.
And now it's they're talking about it going, its IPO and being worth $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is crazy stuff. So yeah. So that's all we have for the show today. I want to thank everyone. It was a great show, Bryan. I really appreciate you being here. It was really good to have the back and forth. And again, thank you to the audience for the conversation. Really appreciate the feedback. Please subscribe to our channel. You can just follow subscribe to our AI Amigo show. I'm pointing to the wrong side. I'm pointing to and don't forget that we're sponsored by Tequila AI.
Yeah, if you have some token problem, find them.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, don't let Jin Chao lose on your tokens. That's the moral of the story.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys, and see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.